The harrowing evidence from the eyewitnesses in the Joe Cox murder trial, anger from Hillsborough families at a police chief's new book, and why shopping is booming. You're watching 5 News Tonight. Joe Cox's family were in court as eyewitnesses described how the MP was shot and stabbed repeatedly before her killer walked away calmly. Anger from the families of the Hillsborough victims as a former South Yorkshire police officer tells his side of the story. And a surprise boost for the economy as retail sales hit a 14-year high. Also tonight, a Hollywood film about a real-life hero.
Sully. Sully. Sully, where'd you go? Sully. Sully. Sully.
We'll hear from Tom Hanks live at a special screening of his new film, Sully, that celebrates the pilot who landed a plane on the Hudson River. And we'll be joined by record-breaking bungee jumper Simon Berry. But just what is he reaching for when he gets to the bottom? Good evening, welcome to 5 News Tonight. I'm Matt Barbett. The trial of the man accused of murdering the MP, Joe Cox, has heard a recording of a police 999 call as the attack unfolded. The jury also listened to eyewitnesses describe what they saw. One man said he watched a man with a gun blast a woman lying in the road before walking away like he didn't have a care in the world. Thomas Mayer denies killing Joe Cox outside her constituency surgery near Leeds in June. Charlotte Grant has more.
Multiple witnesses today described the chaos and the aftermath of the attack on MP Joe Cox. One man, Darren Playford, frantically called 999, telling the court how he pursued the man accused of killing Joe Cox as he left the scene.
If you hurry up, you'll get him.
Okay.
There's hell on this chaos. He stabs people and shot people. Brown Hill Road, which is off Brookroyd Lane. You get a police car at the top of there and one at the bottom, you'll catch him.
Today, Joe's parents and sister were in court to hear evidence from some of Joe's constituents, those living and working in Birstall who witnessed the alleged murder of their MP. The jury's been shown footage of Joe arriving in a silver car to hold her constituency surgery. Shortly behind was taxi driver Rashid Hussain. He said when he saw her being attacked, he recognised Joe Cox immediately. He told the court Thomas Mayer warned him, "Move back, otherwise I'm going to stab you." He said, "Better move back." He shot twice, then moved back and shot again. His last words were, "Britain first." Thomas Mayer denies all the charges and sat in court looking straight ahead as witness after witness described how cold and calm he appeared that day. As many of the witnesses gave evidence, they motioned with their arms to show how Joe Cox was stabbed, with one telling the jury it was slow and precise, as if he knew where he wanted to hurt her. Watching in court was Joe's family, at times clutching each other's hands. David Honeybell had hoped to see Joe Cox at her surgery, but instead said he saw her being shot by Thomas Mayer. He told the jury he stood over her and cocked his gun. He stood over her and blasted her. Asked what Thomas Mayer did next, he said he just walked away, as if he didn't have a care in the world. Witnesses described Thomas Mayer holding what they called an abnormal-looking gun, and that he appeared as an odd, dishevelled man. Charlotte Grant, 5 News at the Old Bailey.
The government is facing fresh accusations this evening that it's lost control of the country's prisons. Earlier on this week, 10,000 prison officers went on strike over concerns about violence and staff shortages, saying the system is in meltdown. And today, there was more bad news for ministers, as our political editor Andy Bell explains.
Is this the reality of Britain's prisons? It's claimed these pictures on social media show prisoners posing in Guy's Marsh prison in Dorset, with drugs apparently on show here and the message "Party night tonight." It's another embarrassment for the government in a week when prison officers staged what they called a protest action over cuts to staff numbers, cuts which they say are putting their members at risk. Today, their union representatives have been meeting the Justice Secretary.
I've never ever known it in such a dire position where staff morale is so low, where prisoners are bullying and fighting amongst themselves and assaulting staff and feeling effectively in control so they can run their own environments within that within a prison environment.
So
and that's
your members have lost control of some prisons, you feel?
Not through their own design, through the lack of support they've had through government.
The government's promised to recruit another 2,500 prison officers, but the relationship's clearly strained after the Justice Secretary described this week's action as an illegal strike.
They have called unlawful industrial action, which I was not happy about. That's why we took them to court. Prison officers have now come back to work. I'm pleased to see that. I go around prisons a lot. I meet some fantastic people. They have my full support and full backing. And what I want to do is work with them to make our prisons better.
It's not just the prison officers who say the tension behind bars is rising fast. Charities too say cuts to staff numbers combined with current prisoner levels mean further tragedy is likely.
I really do worry that we will see a situation where a staff member may be killed. We've had murders of prisoners by prisoners. I don't think we're that far away, sadly, from a situation where prison staff lose control of a wing of a prison or an entire prison and a staff member's life is put at risk.
Both sides in this want to avoid that, but each expects the other to play its part. Andy Bell, 5 News.
Now, a book on the Hillsborough disaster written by a former South Yorkshire police chief has been described as disgusting and offensive by some of the families of those who lost their lives. Sir Norman Bettison has written his account of the tragedy in which 96 people died, saying he wanted to put the record straight after being vilified. Peter Lane reports.
Norman Bettison has always denied being part of a police cover-up designed to blame the fans, but now he's angered the victims' families by publishing Hillsborough Untold, in which he describes the personal impact on him of what he calls an inaccurate and unfair narrative. He writes that an early police account of Hillsborough that he was involved in collating was hopelessly incomplete and insufficient, but says it was no conspiracy and that he has to defend himself.
I go to great lengths to demonstrate the empathy that I have for the families who've struggled against false narratives for 27 years, setting the story straight. Wouldn't any of us, wouldn't you actually care if people were saying things about you that weren't true?
Only a few months ago, an inquest ruled that the 96 Hillsborough victims were unlawfully killed, and in the new year, a decision is due on whether anyone should face criminal charges over the disaster and its aftermath. So for people like Steve Kelly, who lost his brother Michael in the crush at Hillsborough, the book is an insult.
The title of the book, Hillsborough Untold, Hillsborough has been told many, many times, and Mr. Bettison now sees to see himself as some sort of a victim in this. The timing of it now, I know this is in bad taste. It could have waited till after the new year for the book to come out.
And such is the strength of feeling across Liverpool that few bookshops, if any, are expected to stock Sir Norman's account of events.
We're certainly not going to be stocking it. I think it's important for people to remember that that the verdicts at the Hillsborough inquest would not have been achieved without the people of Liverpool sticking together.
Norman Bettison has said he wants to amplify the Hillsborough tragedy, not detract from it, and that the proceeds from his book will go to charity. Peter Lane, 5 News.
FIFA has started disciplinary proceedings against the England and Scotland football teams for wearing poppies in Friday's World Cup qualifier. Warren Nettleford is with me now. Warren, what's happened?
Well, as you said, last Friday evening, England played Scotland in a game at Wembley Stadium. In that game, both teams were wearing black armbands with a poppy on them, seeing as the game fell on Remembrance Day. Now, that doesn't sound out of the ordinary to us in the UK, especially when you consider that back in 2011, England did something similar in a game against Spain. However, before the game, FIFA warned the English and Scottish FAs that wearing poppies could be in contravention of rules, which bans political statements on shirts. But the English and Scottish FAs, they don't really see poppies as being political statements at all. So they thought also a precedent had been set back in 2011, and it seemed unclear if England and Scotland would be breaking any rules at all. But today, FIFA have launched disciplinary proceedings against England and Scotland.
OK, many thanks indeed, Warren. Next, Hillary Clinton has spoken about how upset she was at losing the US elections to Donald Trump. In her first public appearance since she was defeated a week ago, she said she was deeply disappointed to the extent that she just wanted to stay indoors. Danny Sinha has the story.
After the week that was, Hillary Clinton was ready to take centre stage again, a friendly hug to help her on her way.
Now, I will admit, coming here tonight wasn't the easiest thing for me. There have been a few times this past week when all I wanted to do was just to curl up with a good book or our dogs and never leave the house again.
Mrs. Clinton was too upset to make her concession speech on election night last Tuesday after her crushing defeat to Donald Trump. Her feelings only really coming out now.
I know many of you are deeply disappointed about the results of the election. I am too, more than I can ever express. But as I said last week, our campaign was never about one person or even one election.
A few days after the election, this picture of Mrs. Clinton out hiking emerged on social media, a reminder that after all the tears and heartache of not winning, life goes on, just like politics.
I know this isn't easy. I know that over the past week, a lot of people have asked themselves whether America is the country we thought it was. The divisions laid bare by this election run deep. But please listen to me when I say this. America is worth it.
Joining us now from the States is Rebecca Cinderbrand from the Washington Post. And you could really see the toll it's taken on her. She looked completely different there, Rebecca.
Absolutely. Again, her first public appearance, her first speech since the defeat. And, you know, there's special significance for her in that event. That is where she started her career at the Children's Defense Fund. Speaking to a very friendly crowd. She expected to be speaking to them under much different circumstances. She has spoken privately on a conference call with donors about the election, speaking about the reasons she feels like she may have lost, pointing to FBI Director James Comey's letters and others. But at the same time, again, the first reemergence of Hillary Clinton, and it'll be interesting to see the path she takes from this point on.
Yeah, has she hinted what that might be? Will she stay in public life? After all, she still is a former First Lady.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, we've seen what her life was like before she ran for president. And it would be very logical to assume that a lot of it will return to that level. She still has a position as a well-liked and well-loved figure in many quarters in the United States. She's still a person of political prominence in the United States, and her voice will be part of the discussion. But it'll be interesting because, again, we've seen this pattern before with Al Gore and with others who kind of retreat a bit from the spotlight before kind of making their reemergence.
But elsewhere, plenty of changes afoot with who is going to run the country, at least when President Trump fully takes over next year. We've seen also America's top spy stepping back from his position today.
Right, and that was expected. You know, this is something that had been said that, you know, James Clapper would not necessarily be staying on into the next administration. So that's a move that was expected. Donald Trump is starting to speak with world leaders. There has been some concern expressed. Some of these world leaders have had trouble getting a hold of him. Questions about whether he may or may not be speaking to them on unsecured lines, whether he's been properly briefed for these conversations. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be looking to see exactly what sort of response and readout we get from these conversations.
Unsecured lines, it sounds a bit like unsecured emails, Rebecca. Many thanks indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Still to come on 5 News Tonight. We'll be talking to Tom Hanks about his new film. It's called Sully. It's about the heroic pilot who landed a plane on the Hudson River. And the lengths one man went to for a cup of tea and a biscuit. But how did he prepare for that? We'll be talking to him in just a few moments' time. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News Tonight. Now, how much are you planning to spend at Christmas? Well, high street shops are bracing themselves for a really good festive season, as new figures show we are buying more than expected. In fact, retail sales hit a 14-year high last month, much better than predicted, with spending on winter clothes and Halloween being the main reason. So, are those Brexit economy warnings now a bit of a thing of the past? Dominic Reynolds has been having a look.
It seems there's just no stopping Britain's shoppers. You might have your eye on your Christmas shopping list now, But shop figures have revealed that we all gave a very special present to our retailers back in October. The biggest jump in spending for 14 years. So who was doing it?
Did you spend loads in October?
To be fair, I did.
What did you buy?
A few birthday presents.
I buy it all the time.
Nothing stops you?
Nothing stops me.
Yeah, I have spent more than last year.
How come you're feeling so confident? Feeling flush?
Not at all, no. Oh, actually, I've got a new job.
Don't get any money back on your savings, and you know, and your wages are down.
You're smiling, but that's not good news, is it?
No, it's not good news, really, but that's the way of it.
So not feeling too flush?
No.
I work hard and I keep my savings and very healthy.
So no worries here?
No.
Tourists with pockets full of weak British pounds are one factor behind the 7.4% rise on last year. Another is a very profitable Halloween. But by far the best performer on the high street was clothing.
It turns out this is all about something pretty simple, the good old-fashioned weather. We had a very mild September, so it seems most of us put off buying our winter clothes until October.
But analysts are warning numbers like these can't carry on forever.
When news from the financial markets really starts to burn through, when we maybe see some above average inflation happening, that is when we will see a change of consumer sentiment, and that of course means a change in consumer buying habits. But for the moment, whatever the weather, the sun is shining in the retail sector.
You'll probably have noticed your local shopping centre gently hinting that you might want to start shopping for Christmas. But this year, despite gloomy predictions, the country doesn't need much encouragement. Dominic Reynolds, 5 News.
Hurricane-force winds have wreaked havoc in West Wales after what witnesses described as a freak tornado hit the town of Aberystwyth. Winds reached 94 miles per hour, as you can see, causing damage to buildings, boats and caravans. Luckily, no one is thought to have been seriously hurt, but police and firefighters are urging drivers to be careful of debris on the roads. According to new figures obtained by the Labour Party, the number of people waiting 12 hours or more for a hospital bed stuck on a trolley in A&E almost trebled in the first few months of this year. One patient had to wait almost 46 hours. NHS England said figures appear worse thanks to a more stringent definition of waiting times. And millions of drivers could see their car insurance premiums reduced as a result of government plans to cut compensation for whiplash injuries. Claims have risen by 50% over the last decade, costing insurance firms around £1 billion a year. They say they will promise to pass on any savings to their customers. Now, the stars are out in London this evening for a special screening of a new movie called Sully. It's a tale of real-life heroics. Minnie Stevenson is there for us now. So, Minnie, what's it all about?
Well, Matt, 7 years ago, almost to the day, something incredible happened. Captain Sully saved the lives of 155 people when he crash-landed in the River Hudson. So many people are saying that in some ways, this Hollywood script wrote itself.
This is the captain. Brace for impact.
What happened on the River Hudson on the 15th of January 2009 was so miraculous, it sounded like the stuff of movies. And now, it is.
Mayday, 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 this is Cactus 1549.
Directed by Clint Eastwood, the film Sully, starring Tom Hanks, tells the real-life story of a pilot's quick thinking. When the passenger plane's 2 engines failed, the captain had no choice but to emergency land in the middle of New York's River Hudson, saving the lives of all 155 people on board. At the time, the incredible story of survival made the news the world over. The rescue operation from the water took just 24 minutes and brought the city of New York together. Aviation experts say what happened that day was unprecedented.
To lose their engines at that stage of flight and then to go through the decision-making process that they had to land on the river was an incredible event, and the pilots showed their professionalism and teamwork to such an incredible degree.
Diving for the river. The film lands in cinemas on December the 2nd, with critics already predicting Hanks' performance is worthy of an Oscar. Of course, the real star of Flight 1549 is, and always will be, Captain Sully.
Another Oscar indeed, Minnie. And you've been meeting some of the stars and indeed the real-life hero.
Absolutely. Now, I've been talking to Tom Hanks, who they say is the nicest man in Hollywood. I can confirm he is. I've also been talking to his co-star, Aaron Eckhart, who plays his co-pilot, Jeff, in the film. So let's take a look at the moment now when I met the stars. Tom, Aaron, lovely to see you. How are you doing?
All right.
Yeah?
You got any complaints?
Fabulous.
There you
Yeah?
go.
Good
That's
feedback
it.
so far?
Baby.
I wanted to ask you, now, is there more pressure when you're playing a real-life hero? Do you sort of feel like, obviously you always want to do it justice, but, you know, this is not an imaginary
Well,
person.
if they're alive, yeah. I mean, the guys who have been dead for 40 or 300 years, that's not so much of a problem.
They can't sue.
And you know, they're not crooks. So, you know, you want to, we're basing it on not just you know, the 208 seconds where, you know, Sully changed history, but also his entire life, his entire reputation, and, you know, his entire emotional arc of. And we don't want to be wrong. We don't want to make stuff up if we don't have to.
Did it involve late night phone calls with the real people, or WhatsApp? How do you communicate?
There was a substantially long discussion process that for 4 hours he walked me through everything that was in the screenplay, and also that was, you know, not in the screenplay, the stuff that was not written down. And it continued all the way up through. Some of them are just tiny little details, so we just need to find out. Why did you buy a tuna sandwich, was my question. And the answer is because they don't feed us. The airline does not feed us. So, all right, so that's taken care of. And from the sublime to ridiculous, you just go through as many as you can.
I wanted to ask you, obviously, what were your memories on the day when this actually happened in 2009, when you turned on the TV and you watched those news reports?
You remember?
What do you remember? Where were you? What were you doing?
I just saw it on TV after the fact.
Yeah. I just remember the people on the wing, you know, and saying, what are they doing there? It's January, it's the Hudson, and just seeing the smiles on the faces and the relief, and it was a great New York story. You know, everybody came together, all the first responders. You know, anytime a plane is flying low over Manhattan, it could spell trouble, and in this instance, it was a heroic, beautiful event.
We hear you got some heckling when you were playing Captain Sully from
well, that
fans.
white
they
head,
weren't
you know.
Tom Hanks, apparently.
They all just yelled his name over and over again. Sully, hero on a Hudson, atta baby. I'll take that.
A few high fives happened?
On occasion, a few drinks bought for me, even though I don't drink that much. But you know, somebody picked up the check here and then. It was nice.
Do you dare to dream Oscar? People are already talking about it for the Oscars. Do you ever?
How soon does that talk begin? Is that already
You've
going on?
spent your life talking about this, I know, but just humour us.
Nah, it's beyond our. We have so many other things we have to get used to before we get into that.
Bigger fish to fry. Now, I was going to ask you about that little tiny thing called the American election. We've been talking about it a little bit. It's not
You
big
remember
deal,
that?
I know.
Yeah.
Ages ago. Now, some people have said they'd like you to be the next president.
Well, that's just the saddest reality
Would
I've
you
ever
ever
heard.
do it? Would you
Oh
ever
dear
do it?
Lord, no!
No?
I'm still getting work, man.
You're
you know,
good at speeches. People love you.
Politics is show business for ugly people, and I think I'm too good looking.
Whoa, hey!
Would you vote for him?
Absolutely.
And what are your views on what's happened over there in America? Some people would say America's divided.
Well, yeah, America's always divided, but America has this thing of facing up to divisions, and it doesn't tear us apart, you see. We get on with it. We have arguments over the Thanksgiving dinner table, but then those who need to get involved, get involved. And I think that's what's going to be happening over the next few years.
And just finally, if anybody could play you in a film, who would it be?
I would want Aaron Eckhart to play me.
Would you?
Because I want to be
Could you
that.
afford it?
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I just want to have the chiseled visions that this man has. That's what I'd go for.
It's lovely to see you. Thank you
Pleasure.
very
Nice
much.
talking to you.
Nice to meet you both. Thank you very
much.
much. There you have. Now, what charming, funny chaps they were. Now, I have to say, I don't want to sound like a movie lovey, but it's already had brilliant reviews and lots of people saying that Tom Hanks could win an Oscar. That would be his third. But as you learn there, it doesn't look like he's going to be running for president anytime soon. So sorry, guys.
What a shame. You're such a lovey, Minnie. Thank you very much indeed. Finally, a cup of tea and a biscuit. It's a classic way to relax. But one adrenaline junkie has taken this very British pastime to a completely different level, bagging a Guinness World Record for the highest bungee dunk. Have a look. So this is Simon Berry. He jumped from a record height of 73.41 metres. There you go, did it. 240 feet, the equivalent of, to dunk that biscuit into a cup of tea. I'm delighted to say that Simon has dropped in to see us now. Why, Simon? Why do it?
Well, basically, the company I work for, UK Bungee Club, were approached by Experience Days, and they asked us, you know, is this possible? Can we break the previous record?
There was already a record for this?
There was indeed, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the record? Where was it done? Who was doing it?
It was an American chap, I forget his name, who did it at 60 or just over 60 metres.
The thing is, Americans don't drink tea like we do, and they don't have as good biscuits as we do, so clearly you had a bit of a head start there. How did you go about the technical aspects of choosing said biscuit?
Well, they initially wanted me to use a rich tea, But I thought there's no way
soggy.
that's... Yeah, exactly. It's not going to survive 70-odd metres. So they brought a selection down, and I thought hobnob, good solid biscuit.
Yes.
With the chocolate on to keep it all
chocolate
together.
covering, just to really bind it together there.
Exactly.
How many goes did it take?
It took me about 15 attempts.
Wow, OK. And when you nailed it, and you really did, you barely even got your fingers wet, what did it feel like when you managed that?
Oh, it felt absolutely incredible. Like,
hang on. And you had to get your certificate, which I know you've got here now, your Guinness World Record certificate. You got it upside down?
I did indeed, yes. Yeah.
OK. So it does beg the question, what next?
Well, we do have a project in the pipeline that's a little bit hush-hush at the minute.
Right.
But I can tell you it involves a hot air balloon.
OK. It's quite hard to dunk a hot air balloon into a cup of tea.
We won't be dunking on this.
Right,
this
OK.
one.
But surely now you've got a bit of a taste for this world record thing. Now you've bagged this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I keep hinting around the office that I want my name putting forward for anything that comes up in the future.
Really? I mean, do you think... I mean, I know you're an adrenaline junkie and self-confessed. Did you get the fear at all when you were doing that? Because you had to be really fully extended to achieve it, didn't you?
I did, but no fear. To be honest with you, I've done that many bungee jumps now that you just get over it, really.
Simon, just what about the fear though of someone coming to take the record off you? Because now this is obviously becoming a bit of a race.
I mean, they'll have to try pretty hard to beat this record. I reckon I've got a good few years at least.
Good few years of holding the record. OK. And one more question: do you take sugar in your tea? Two sugars. They were already in the tea, though.
They were indeed.
You have to put those in as well. Simon, many thanks indeed. Congratulations on the certificate. Look forward to seeing you dunk that hot air balloon when you get around to it. That's it from us for the time being. Claire Nazir is here with the weather next, and Danny Sinhar will be back with updates throughout the evening on Channel 5. For now, thanks very much indeed for your company. I'll see you again tomorrow at 5. Bye-bye.